Sarah always believed that money was the only language the world understood. But as she stood at the altar, ready to marry the man of her dreams, the doors opened to a man who spoke a truth she wasn't ready to hear. Sarah whispered, "It can't be. David?" Standing at the entrance wasn't just a man. It was the trash she had swept away months ago. But today, he wasn't wearing a grease-stained jumpsuit. He was wearing a suit that cost more than her entire wedding. David's voice was calm and echoing as he spoke. "Beautiful ceremony, Sarah. It's a shame it's built on a lie." 4 months ago, Sarah's life was perfect. She was a rising socialite who measured a person's worth by the logo on their shirt. That afternoon, her engine gave out on the way to a high-stakes gala. Sarah screamed into her phone, "I don't care. Send a tow truck now. I have the CEO of Heritage Bank waiting for me. Do you know who I am?" A beat-up blue pickup truck pulled over. David climbed out. He was wearing a faded navy jumpsuit. His hands were covered in black oil, and there was a smudge of grease on his forehead. David asked, "Need a hand, miss? Looks like a blown radiator hose." Sarah looked him up and down with disgust. "Stay back. Don't you dare come near this car. You probably can't even afford the hubcaps on this vehicle." David smiled gently. "The car doesn't care how much money you have. It just needs to be fixed. I'm David. I have a shop a mile down. I can get you moving in 10 minutes. Sarah snapped back. "I'd rather walk in these heels than let a grease monkey touch my leather interior. Look at you. You smell like a junkyard. People like you are the reason I never take the back roads." David didn't argue. He simply reached into his truck, pulled out a bottle of water, and offered it to her. Sarah swiped it out of his hand and poured it on the ground. "I don't take charity from beggars. Get lost," Sarah said. David nodded slowly. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Sarah. But remember, the most expensive things in life aren't things." 2 weeks later, Sarah met Michael. He was everything David wasn't. He was polished, wealthy, and arrogant in a way that Sarah found sophisticated. Michael bragged, "So I told the board of directors, if you want my expertise, you pay my price. I don't work for pennies." Sarah was beaming. "Finally, a man who understands power. You know, I met this disgusting mechanic the other day who tried to hit on me. Can you imagine? Some people really don't know their place." Michael stiffened for a microsecond, then laughed. "A mechanic? Pathetic. Stick with me, babe. I'm moving into the penthouse at the Apex Towers next month. My boss is out of the country, so I'm basically running the empire." Sarah was blinded by the sparkle. She didn't notice that Michael always insisted on paying with company credit cards, or that he never took her to his actual office. As they planned the wedding, Sarah felt she had won the lottery. But one day, while walking in the park, they saw an old man struggling to carry groceries. Beside him was David, still in his work clothes, helping the man. Sarah laughed. "Ugh, look, Michael, it's that dirty mechanic again. Hey, grease monkey, still playing with trash?" David looked up and said, "Hello again, Sarah." "Oh, hello, Michael." Michael's face turned ghost white. He hid behind his sunglasses and spoke nervously. Do I know you, buddy?" "Come on, Sarah, let's go. This place is getting crowded." David replied, "We've met, Michael, many times. Are you still managing things?" Michael pulled her away. "Let's go, Sarah, now." Sarah thought Michael was just disgusted by David's poverty. She had no idea that Michael's heart was beating out of his chest from pure terror.
Finally, the wedding day arrived. It was filled with elite guests and expensive flowers. Sarah was at the altar with Michael. The priest began to speak. "If anyone has any reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony." The doors crashed open. David entered. The guests gasped. He looked like royalty. Sarah yelled, "David, how did you get past security? Michael, call the police. This hobo is ruining my day." Michael's voice cracked. "Sarah, shut up." "What? Michael, look at him. He's probably here to steal the gifts," Sarah shouted. David walked up the aisle and said, "I didn't come to steal, Sarah. I came to collect my property." Sarah sneered, "Your property? You don't own a toothbrush." David turned to Michael. "Michael, I told you when I hired you as my personal driver that honesty was the most important trait. I didn't mind that you borrowed the cars to go on dates. I didn't even mind the business dinners you put on my tab." The silence in the church was deafening. Sarah's jaw dropped. The CEO she was marrying was just a driver. David continued, "But then I found out you were marrying a woman who mocks the working class, a woman who thinks a mechanic isn't a human being. I realized I was funding a wedding for two people who have no souls." Michael started crying. "Sir, please, I love her. I was going to tell her." "No, you weren't," David said. "You were going to use my name to secure a loan in her name. I've seen the papers, Michael." David pulled out a document and handed it to the priest. "This cathedral, the catering, the yacht where he proposed, I own the parent company for all of it. And as of 5 minutes ago, Michael, your employment is terminated. Security is waiting outside to take back the suit you're wearing." Sarah became hysterical. "David, wait, I didn't know. I was confused. You're the billionaire? We can talk about this. Michael is a loser. I don't want him. I want you." David looked at her with pity. "That's the problem, Sarah. You only want the billionaire. You never wanted the man who offered you water when you were stranded. You rejected the mechanic, so you don't deserve the man in the suit." David turned and walked out. Michael was escorted out by security, literally having to change into gym clothes in the parking lot. Sarah stood at the altar, alone, in a dress she couldn't afford for a wedding that didn't exist. Sarah learned that day that grease can be washed off the hands, but a dirty soul is much harder to clean. She spent the rest of her life remembering the man she called trash, the only man who was ever truly gold. Never judge a man by his working clothes. A humble heart is the most expensive thing you can find. The wedding guests dispersed in whispers and scandal. Sarah stood frozen at the altar for what felt like hours, though it was only minutes. Her maid of honor, Jessica, approached cautiously. "Sarah, we should go," Jessica said softly. But Sarah couldn't move. Her mind was racing through every interaction with David, every cruel word she spat at him, the water bottle, the smudge of grease on his forehead, his gentle smile that never wavered even as she poured hatred onto him. "He was testing me the whole time," Sarah whispered. Jessica helped her out of the cathedral through a side exit. The photographers were already outside, cameras flashing like lightning. Sarah's humiliation would be tomorrow's headline. That night, alone in her apartment, Sarah did something she hadn't done in years. She looked at herself honestly. She scrolled through her social media, seeing post after post of designer bags, expensive restaurants, and captions dripping with superiority. Who had she become? Her phone buzzed. It was her father. "Sarah, I saw the news. Are you okay?" She broke down. "Dad, I ruined everything. I've become exactly what Mom always warned me not to be." Her father sighed. "Your mother and I were worried. We saw you changing, becoming obsessed with status. We tried to talk to you, but you stopped listening." "I was so cruel to him, Dad. To David. He was kind to me when my car broke down, and I treated him like garbage. And he still tried to save me from Michael's lies." "Then maybe," her father said gently, "it's not too late to learn the lesson." The next morning, Sarah drove to the address she'd found online, David's automotive shop. It wasn't some grimy garage. It was a state-of-the-art facility with gleaming floors and dozens of employees. A sign read, Morgan Automotive Group, founded 1995. David was in the back, genuinely working on an engine, his sleeves rolled up. He looked up when he saw her. "Sarah." "I don't expect forgiveness," she said quickly. I needed you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for every terrible thing I said. You showed me kindness, and I threw it back in your face." David wiped his hands on a rag. "Why are you really here?" "Because I need to understand. Why did you help me that day? Why did you offer me water when I was so horrible to you?" David leaned against a car. "My father was a mechanic, a real one. He taught me that every person deserves dignity, regardless of their bank account. When I built this company, I promised myself I'd never forget where I came from. I still work on engines because it keeps me humble." "And the wedding?
You could have exposed Michael sooner. I could have, admitted David, but I wanted to see if either of you would come clean, if Michael would tell you the truth, if you would realize that character matters more than a credit card. Neither of you did. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I've spent my whole life chasing the wrong things. I thought money was power. I thought status was success. But I was empty, David. Completely empty. David studied her face. So what now? Now I start over. I've already resigned from the socialite committees. I'm selling the designer clothes. I'm going to volunteer at the homeless shelter my father runs. And maybe one day I'll be someone worthy of a second chance. David nodded slowly. That's a good start, Sarah. Real change takes time. It takes humility. It recognizing that every person, the janitor, the CEO, the mechanic, has value. Sarah turned to leave, then paused. David, that day on the road, you said the most expensive things in life aren't things. What did you mean? David smiled. Integrity, kindness, compassion, self-respect. Those cost everything because you can't buy them. You have to build them, day by day, choice by choice. As Sarah drove away, she looked at herself in the rearview mirror. For the first time in years, she didn't see a socialite or a brand. She saw a woman who had a long road ahead, but finally, she was heading in the right direction. The man in the grease-stained jumpsuit had given her the most valuable gift of all, a mirror to see her own soul.